Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today, I want to share something truly unprecedented, something that has shaped every corner of our modern world, the real story of how America became the most powerful country on Earth. This isn't just history. This is the story of dreams turned into destiny, struggles turned into strength, and vision turned into victory. A country that leads the world in science and innovation. A country that has the largest economy the world has ever seen, more than $26 trillion strong. A country that gave the world the internet, the airplane, and the iPhone. A country that revolutionized communication, industry, and technology. A country whose universities, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, became the dreams of millions of students worldwide. A country that leads in space exploration, that put the first man on the moon and now reaches for Mars. A country that built the most powerful military in history, not to conquer, but to defend its idea of freedom. A country whose culture, its music, movies, and media has reached every home on Earth. A country that has produced some of the greatest scientists and thinkers, from Albert Einstein, who found refuge there, to Richard Feynman, Steve Jobs, and Elon Musk, who reshaped the future. A country that has earned more Nobel Prizes than any other nation in the world, in every field: peace, literature, physics, and medicine. A country that has stood as a mediator between nations, often the first to send aid when the world is in crisis. A country that symbolizes the dream that no matter where you are born, you can rise, you can achieve, you can change the world. But here's the real question. How did it happen? How did a small group of colonies, once poor, divided, and fragile, become a nation that today dominates the global economy, technology, and politics? What made this transformation possible? Was it luck, leadership, courage, or a dream so big that it rewrote history itself? In this documentary, we will uncover the complete journey of America, from its humble beginnings to its unstoppable rise as the world's ultimate superpower. You are going to learn not just about wars and politics, but about dreams, innovation, ambition, and the human will that built this country from nothing. We will explore how America was discovered, how it grew through struggle and invention, and how it became the global leader in every domain imaginable. And remember, this video is not only a story, it's also a great opportunity for you to improve your English listening, reading, and vocabulary skills. So if you love history, if you want to understand how power is built, and if you want to learn English through powerful storytelling, then stay with me till the end. Because by the end of this video, you will not only know how America became the most powerful nation on Earth, but you'll also discover what it truly takes for any dream or any nation to rise. So make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you want more videos like this one, because today, you are about to witness the untold story of America's rise from colonies to the center of the world. Chapter 1: Discovery and British Colonization. Long before maps read United States, this land was home to millions of people, nations and cultures, ancestral Poblanos, Mississippians, Iroquois, Cherokee, lived across rivers, plains, and forests. They farmed, traded, created art, and governed themselves in ways suited to their environment. Cities such as Cahokia rose and fell. Oral traditions passed knowledge across generations. For centuries, this continent knew its own rhythms, untouched by European empires. Then something unprecedented happened in the year 1492 when an Italian explorer and navigator, Columbus, landed on the New World, aiming to discover Asia, but he was landed on America mistakenly. This unprecedented discovery pushed the empires and colonizers across Europe to occupy the new land. Among them, the British influence grew strongest along the eastern seaboard and made 13 strong colonies. By the early 1600s, colonists had built towns from New England to Virginia, communities built on farming, trade, and fragile freedoms. Yet their legal ties to London set the stage for a growing conflict. Who rules? The crown or the people who live here? Chapter 2. The Spark of Independence, 1607 to 1783. The early colonies were full of energy and tension. Settlements like Jamestown and Plymouth survived hardship. Over decades, colonists developed their own institutions, town meetings, local courts, and schools. They became used to taking care of their own affairs. But the Atlantic distance mattered. When Britain tightened control, taxing tea, stamps, and goods, the colonists felt it as an attack on everyday life. No taxation without representation became a rallying cry. Events such as the Boston Massacre and the Boston Tea Party hardened opinion. In 1776, leaders from the 13 colonies declared independence. The Revolutionary War tested the new nation. George Washington's perseverance, Allied support from France, and the courage of ordinary soldiers allowed America to survive. By 1783, the Treaty of Paris recognized the United States. The revolution was a radical experiment to build a republic not ruled by kings, but by laws and citizens. The Constitution of 1787 gave form to that experiment. Federal structures, separation of powers, and a Bill of Rights created a system that balanced authority and liberty. It would become a model for others and a foundation for future growth. Chapter 4. Expansion and the Idea of a Continent, 1800 to 1860. After independence, the U.S. faced a vast, empty continent to its west, filled with resources and possibility. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803 doubled the nation's size and opened the Mississippi Valley. Lewis and Clark's expedition mapped rivers and routes to the Pacific, and pioneers moved across trails into new territories. The doctrine of manifest destiny, though controversial, captured the spirit of expansion. Many Americans believed it was their right and duty to spread across the continent. Railroads connected distant regions. Cities rose where trains stopped. Agriculture and industry began to reshape lives. But expansion brought conflict, contested land with Native Americans, tensions over slavery as new territories debated whether to be free or slave states. These conflicts would later explode into America's greatest crisis. Chapter 5. The Civil War, A Nation Tested, 1861 to 1865. The clash over slavery and the economic and cultural differences between the North and South led to secession and war. The Civil War was devastating. Over 500,000 lives lost, cities burned, economies disrupted. Yet the war resolved a moral and constitutional crisis. Abraham Lincoln's leadership preserved the Union and pushed towards emancipation. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery, and the struggle for civil rights began a long and unfinished path. The war's outcome, painful as it was, allowed the nation to move forward. It set the stage for industrial power and a renewed, if imperfect, commitment to the ideal of freedom for all. Chapter 5: Industry, Immigrants, and the Gilded Age, 1870 to 1914. The last decades of the 19th century transformed America. The Industrial Revolution arrived in full force. Steel mills, textile factories, and oil refineries rose. Innovators and entrepreneurs, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Morgan, harnessed capital and organization to create vast enterprises. Henry Ford's assembly line changed manufacturing forever, lowering costs and opening mass consumer markets. Cities flourished: New York, Chicago, Pittsburgh, filled with immigrants seeking work and new lives. Ellis Island became the gateway for millions. These newcomers brought labor and creativity, powering rapid growth. Railroads stitched the country together. Telegraphs and later telephones connected people at speed. Yet this Gilded Age had contradictions: extreme wealth alongside poverty, labor exploitation prompting strikes, and political corruption. These tensions prompted reform movements, labor unions, antitrust laws, progressive reforms, attempts to make industrial power more just and stable. Chapter 6: World War I and Global Responsibility, 1914 to 1918. When World War I broke in Europe, the United States initially remained neutral. But economic ties and moral outrage over unrestricted submarine warfare led the U.S. to enter the war in 1917. American troops and resources helped the Allies win. The war expanded U.S. global influence. It emerged as a key creditor and industrial supplier. The post-war years saw social change. Women gained the vote with the 19th Amendment. The roaring 1920s brought modern culture, but also economic speculation. That speculation ended in collapse with the 1929 stock market crash. Chapter 8: The Great Depression and Recovery, 1929 to 1939. The Great Depression was a severe test. Unemployment skyrocketed, banks failed, and hope dimmed. Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal programs aimed to rebuild the economy and provide social safety nets. Public works, banking reform, and job programs restored confidence and modernized infrastructure. The Depression revealed both vulnerabilities and the capacity for national mobilization, an ability that would prove decisive in the coming war. Chapter 8: World War II and the Arsenal of Democracy, 1939 to 1945. World War II pushed America fully onto the global stage. After the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the U.S. mobilized. Men and women served in uniform and on the home front. Factories shifted to war production. Scientists worked on new technologies. The nation produced an unprecedented volume of ships, planes, and weaponry, becoming the arsenal of democracy. The war's end found the United States with unmatched industrial capacity, a strong military, and scientists who had developed nuclear weapons. The geopolitical map shifted. Europe was devastated, colonial empires weakened, and the United States and Soviet Union emerged as superpowers. The U.S. helped rebuild Europe through the Marshall Plan, established the United Nations, and shaped post-war institutions. Its economic and political reach expanded. This was the foundation of modern American global leadership. Chapter 9: The Cold War, Containment, and the Space Race, 1947 to 1991. The Cold War was an ideological contest. The U.S. adopted containment, preventing the spread of Soviet-aligned communism through alliances, NATO, economic aid, and proxy conflicts. The Korean War and Vietnam War tested American resolve and limits. But the Cold War also spurred innovation. Competition with the Soviet Union accelerated science, rockets, satellites, and computing. When the Soviets launched Sputnik in 1957, the U.S. responded with the Apollo program, landing a man on the moon in 1969. That achievement symbolized technological supremacy and inspired an era of education, research, and investment in science. Domestically, the post-war decades were a mix: economic prosperity for many, civil rights struggles for African Americans and other minorities, cultural revolutions in music, film, and literature. America's soft power, the influence of culture and ideas, grew alongside its hard power. Chapter 10. The Rise of the Knowledge Economy, 1970s to 2000s. The late 20th century saw America transition into a knowledge and technology economy. Silicon Valley emerged as a global hub for computing and innovation. Companies founded in garages, Microsoft, Apple, reshaped business and daily life. The Internet's rise in the 1990s accelerated globalization. Ideas, goods, and information flowed faster than ever. America's universities and research centers attracted global talent, producing Nobel laureates, medical breakthroughs, and engineering advances. Biotechnology, information technology, and new communications industries changed productivity and created new wealth. The U.S. dollar, financial markets, and institutions like Wall Street gave America financial influence worldwide. Multinational corporations spread American goods and cultural products globally: films, music, fashion, building cultural and economic reach. Chapter 11. Military reach and strategic presence. One key reason for American power is its military reach and technology. The U.S. invested in a modern, professional military with global logistics capability. Aircraft carriers, advanced aircraft, satellites, and precision weapons allowed projection of power anywhere on the globe. The network of bases, NATO alliances, and partnerships with many countries provided strategic depth. Technological dominance, drones, stealth aircraft, and cyber capabilities kept the U.S. at the forefront of national defense. But military power alone did not create influence. It worked with diplomacy, economic tools, and cultural leadership to maintain global presence. Chapter 12. Culture, Science, and Nobel Achievements. American universities and research centers produced many Nobel laureates in physics, chemistry, medicine, economics, and literature. This reflects an ecosystem that rewards research, funds science, and attracts global talent. Discoveries in medicine, vaccines, imaging, and biotech improved lives worldwide. Physicists and engineers developed technologies that underpin modern electronics, communications, and material sciences. On culture, Hollywood films, American music, and television shaped global taste and language, often spreading values of individualism and possibility. The English language's role in science and business strengthened America's soft power, making its ideas and products more accessible worldwide. Chapter 13. Economic Tools, Dollar, Trade, and Institutions. The U.S. dollar's central role in global trade is a major source of influence. After World War II, institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and World Bank reflected U.S. leadership. The Bretton Woods system linked currencies to the dollar. Over decades, the dollar became the dominant reserve currency, used in trade and held in central bank reserves. Trade agreements, multinational corporations, and American financial markets made the U.S. an essential partner for global growth. Investments flowed into American firms, technology and capital fostered innovation at home and abroad. Chapter 14. Immigration, Talent, and Renewal. Immigration is a central thread. Millions arrived seeking opportunity: scientists, entrepreneurs, laborers. Immigrants fueled factories,
built neighborhoods, and later founded companies that became global leaders. The openness to new ideas and people created a dynamic society where talent from many nations contributed to innovation and growth. Immigration also meant cultural mixing, new cuisines, arts, and perspectives that enriched American life. This diversity became a competitive advantage, enabling problem-solving and creativity. Chapter 15. Challenges and Critiques. No rise is without challenge. America's wealth coexists with inequality. Gaps in income, health, and access to education remain. Racial injustice and social divisions have required long, ongoing movements for civil rights. Wars like Vietnam revealed limits to military power and cost heavy human toll. Political polarization and economic shocks, such as the 2008 financial crisis, exposed vulnerabilities. But even with shortcomings, America's institutions, courts, press, universities, allowed critique and reform. That capacity to self-correct, though imperfect, is part of the nation's resilience. Chapter 16. The Digital Age and AI, a New Frontier. The 21st century added a new domain: data and artificial intelligence.
Companies and research labs in the U.S. lead in machine learning, cloud computing, and advanced chips. These technologies affect defense, health, economy, and everyday life. Whoever leads in AI and data may have strategic advantage. America's investments in these fields continue to be central to power dynamics worldwide. Chapter 17. Diplomacy, Aid, and Global Institutions. Beyond force and finance, America used diplomacy and aid. Marshall Plan reconstruction, disaster relief, and global health initiatives extended influence through generosity and partnership. Participation in institutions, UN, NATO, WHO, created channels to shape norms and responses to crises. Soft power, education exchanges, cultural programs, and scholarships built long-term relationships and goodwill. Chapter 18. What truly built American power? If we step back, patterns become clear. American power is not from one source, but a network. Ideas, belief in innovation, property rights, and scientific method. Institutions, constitutional law, stable financial systems, universities. People, entrepreneurs, immigrants, scientists, and soldiers. Economy, industrial base turned into high-tech leadership. Military, advanced technology and global logistics. Culture and language, English as a global lingua franca and cultural exports. These elements reinforced each other. Universities trained engineers and leaders who built companies. Companies concentrated wealth and fund research. Research created technologies that boosted military and economic power. The dollar and financial markets amplified influence across borders. The ability to attract global talent sustained a cycle of renewal. Chapter 19. The Future, Renewal and Responsibility. The future is uncertain. New powers rise, technology changes the rules. Climate change, cyber threats, and global inequality pose complex challenges. Yet the forces that built American power, innovation, adaptability, and human capital remain. How America responds to internal divisions, reforms institutions, and collaborates globally will shape its future role. Power also brings responsibility. Leading in health, climate, and conflict prevention can shape a safer, more prosperous world. The next chapter of American influence may depend as much on cooperation and moral leadership as on GDP and weapons. Conclusion. The story continues. From the first colonies to moon landings, from factories to microchips, this nation's rise is a story of ambition, invention, struggle, and reinvention. America became the most powerful country on Earth, not by accident, but by a mix of daring ideas, institutions that encouraged experimentation, and a society able to absorb talent from the world. For learners of history and English alike, this story offers lessons. Large dreams require daily work. Innovation requires openness to new people and ideas. And power without reflection can create injustice that must be corrected. Thank you for watching this documentary. If you found value in this story, please like, share, and subscribe. Keep listening, keep learning, and let history guide your understanding of the present, because the story of America is still being written.